And good afternoon. Welcome to another conversation at the table. I am Chad Bresson and I am the lead church planter at the table of Los Fresnos. It's another week, another Monday, another week of sheltering in place. Day number 27, if I'm counting correctly, of our sheltering in place here in deep South Texas. And it's going to be another hot one today, 90 degrees. Actually, it's a little cooler than it was yesterday. I think that yesterday was 98 degrees here. So it's a little cooler. So another week. How are you doing with sheltering in place? And what are your plans for the week? What's it you're going to do with the time? At the end of the week, what is it you want to have accomplished with your week? Thought for today here at the conversation at the table, hopefully this will be part of how we think throughout the week, a thought to keep with us throughout this week. Actually comes from the passage we looked at yesterday in our sermon on John 20. It's the story of Jesus with the disciples the evening of his resurrection. Jesus rises, he's crucified. 3 days later, he rises from the dead. And then that evening, he shows up and shows himself to his disciples. And of course, then it's a party. Jesus shows up and it's a party. That evening of the resurrection day, here's what John is saying happens to the disciples when Jesus shows up. It says, John 20:19, the disciples were gathered together with the doors locked. Now, I think I saw 1,000 sermons yesterday online, all making the connection between locked doors and sheltering in place. And finding our story right here with the disciples, and that's okay. It's a good thing. It's a made for quarantine story. The disciples are locked away, and Jesus shows up right away. We have an affinity with these disciples because they are self-quarantining. They are staying away from the public. They are staying at home. They are sheltering in place because of their health. Well, danger to their health in that day meant danger of a different kind. You see, 3 days ago they had watched their best friend be executed, and they think that they are next. Here's what John says: the doors were locked because they feared the Jews. So they are self-quarantining. They are sheltering in place because they are afraid for their lives. They are afraid for their health. But the danger to their health is whips, and if what happens to them happened to their best friend happens to them, it's a cross. So they are sheltering in place. They are afraid, and those fears, by the way, those fears are well founded, because we find out in the book of Acts that they're sheltering in place in the book of Acts early on. And for good reason, because what those guys did to Jesus, the same crowd then does to them. Pretty soon they are in jail. And they're getting the beatings. And in a couple of years, one of them in that room is actually going to pay the price with his life. James is the first of that crowd to be executed because of the gospel. So those fears on the resurrection day, they somewhat legitimate. Because what happened to Jesus, they're expecting is going to happen to them. So they are self-quarantined. They are locked in this room. And the very next words, again, the next words in our English translation, the very next words are, Jesus came. It says the doors were locked because they feared the Jews. And then it says, Jesus came. And that was unexpected. Totally unexpected. This is one of the times when you come into a passage like this in the Bible, and you're reading it, where the contrast is absolutely stark, and we're supposed to see that. Because the doors were locked, they were afraid with the Jews, then the words Jesus came. This is like the before and after. Doors locked, fear the Jews, Jesus came. This is like those viral pictures that we see. Hey, this was this person 6 months ago, and 150 pounds lighter later, here they are now, and we all applaud, right? The before and after. This is that kind of contrast. This is the contrast between behind locked doors and being afraid for their lives, and Jesus came. What it meant for those disciples is everything is okay. All is right with the world. The impact on them is immediate. It says they rejoiced. Jesus came. He is speaking peace to them, and everything is right with the world. That's huge contrast. We're supposed to see that. And Jesus came. We see those words, Jesus came. And when we hear that, those of us who've been around church for a while and have heard all the stories, when we hear the words Jesus came, we tend to think of Christmas. And rightly so. Jesus came. He came as a baby. Jesus also uses those words when he's talking about his own mission during his ministry. So we have things throughout the Gospels like, I did not come to call the righteous, I came for the sinners. The Son of Man has come to seek and save those who are lost. I am the living bread that came down from heaven. I have come so that they would have life and have it in abundance. Jesus came. Jesus came from heaven to save sinners and give them life. He came as the bread from heaven. But here, though, those words take on entirely new meaning. It takes this one step further. Because, you see, Jesus came. He came and then he died on the cross. And now he is coming out of the grave. And he is appearing to those he loves. You see, this is the reason, this is the risen Jesus who has come to be present. And now it's his presence with his disciples, and he's speaking peace that makes everything okay. See, he came down from heaven to save sinners. He has done that in the cross. Now he's risen out of the grave, and now he is present among his disciples. Jesus came. He came for them. He came to be present among them, having accomplished what he set out to do. He came for them. Jesus came for them. He comes for us. Even in our sheltering in place. That's what we're supposed to see here. Jesus came for me. He came for you. And that's a presence that speaks peace to us when we need it. So, we fear. We fear for our health. We fear for others' health. We fear for our jobs. We fear for our future. We fear for our kids' futures. So this afternoon, whatever you're thinking, whatever context you're in right now, and this is for the rest of the week even, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, John 20 is for you. Jesus came. Jesus came for you. Jesus died for you. Jesus rose for you. Jesus is present for you in your sheltering in place. Whatever that means, whether you are sheltering in place all the time in your homes, whether you are always having to go out because you have a job, Jesus came for you. He came for your sheltering in place. He came for you in your fear. He came for me in my fear. That's Jesus. Jesus is here for us. Again, that's our thought for the week, thought for this Monday. And whatever we're doing, wherever we're going, Jesus came. He came for me. He came for you. He is present with you in the moment, in your sheltering in place. That is today's conversation at the table. I pray for you. I pray for whatever you're doing. I pray for those fears. Again, many of them are well-founded. Give those fears to Jesus. Give those fears to a very present Jesus who is with you in the moment. So I pray for you. I'll be praying for you throughout the day. Leave your comments here. Leave your prayer requests here. If you don't want those prayer requests to be public, then send us a private message. Like the table, follow the table on Facebook. We have a Bible study at noon on Thursdays on Zoom. So join us at that time at noon. In fact, we'll be covering this very passage. That's what we've been doing every week, covering the sermon passage. So it'll be John 20, 19 through 23. You want to know a little bit more about what's going on in that passage? Then join us. I'll send you the meeting ID, and we've also got a password. It is password protected, so we'll make sure that it's safe. So we'll send you the password as well, and join us. We'd love to have you for Bible study. And then check out our sermons on YouTube. And again, we have more conversations at the table posted right here on the table page on Facebook. So stay safe, stay healthy, stay at home, stay connected. We are loved by Jesus for the love of Los Fresnos. Have a great afternoon.